Yes. Oh, we were better safe.
Save the day. Our phones would be ringing.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I killed mine yet. Let's go with approval of the agenda.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approval of our minutes from May 17th.
I got a correction.
Yes.
Under committee members in the closed session, I was not here.
Not even on the, they cut you off on the film too?
Wasn't here.
You weren't here.
He was completely absent, but on my minutes, I've got him listed. as
Okay.
Oh,
Copy
okay.
and paste, so.
All right. So with that correction, you're gonna make the motion to approve with
I'll
that
approve
correction?
with correction.
Okay,
Move to approve with correction.
all right. Is there a second? Yeah. Okay. All those in favor then, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public comment. 1, 2, 3.
I'll go. I'll try to be really brief because you've heard from me before. So Steve Stroshane, Polk Burnett Electric Cooperative, electrical engineer, licensed professional engineer in the state of Wisconsin. So I just want to follow up. I never know how I can interact with you once you start discussion on a topic. So at the end of last meeting, when you approved the renewable energy ordinance, Supervisor Rowdy asked why you didn't incorporate Polk Burnett's been here multiple times, asking for the definition of small scale to be changed. I'm kind of paraphrasing there, and staff commented that the committee requested this ordinance be developed. Staff followed the UW extension model, and these were the categories in the UW extension model. And then in the statement was said, well, if we're going to change the definition of small, we'd need a new public hearing. So the committee acted and approved the ordinance as it was. So I guess what I don't know is, do you think the ordinance is perfect today and you don't need a small category at all, or you wanted to get something in place and time constraints said we don't have time to deal with rewriting this thing now? We're not in ordinance rewrite season, so we just got to get something out there, and we're open to looking at small and looking at adjustments and rules in the winter, whatever, when ordinance rewrite season goes. So I don't know where the committee sits on that. As you know, my issue is this ordinance treats everybody the same. Big sites, small sites. And I gave you an example of that in the diagram. So I'm not picking on Apple River Solar. I'm just using that as a way to contrast the size of the projects. You can see the size and scope of those projects. I overlaid a 15-acre site in the pink in the bottom left-hand corner of that. So you got this tiny 15 acres, which would be size of our site. It could be, your ordinance, it could be as small as 1 acre, it could be as small as 6 acres, but your ordinance treats everything the same. And the biggest, just another example would be access driveways. I went through the Apple River Solar application. They have 12 access drives versus you just have 1 access drive. I know that was a concern of the committee with regards to emergency responders. National Grid Renewables, 14,000 megawatts in development, 650 megawatts in construction, 1,000 megawatts operating. Just the companies, the size of the projects are just vastly different. This ordinance treats them all the same. So I guess my single biggest concern is with the current ordinance language that requires semi-annual reporting. And through that semi-annual reporting, the county can hire a consultant, and the owner shall pay all costs for that consultant to monitor construction and make sure that the system is in good repair and operating condition. Well, you can do that semi-annually. I mean, that's just, we have to sign a 25-year contract with the developers, if every twice a year you can outsource to a consultant, the review of these semi-annual reports is just a big unknown cost that a smaller project is gonna add cost to the smaller project. So as I've testified before, and as I've stated during public comment before, that's my biggest concern with not differentiating the size and scope. And what I provided you in that picture is a good example of how these projects are vastly different. So I'll be interested to hear, if you think the ordinance is fine as it is today, I'll just go away then, because I know where you're coming from. The one thing I didn't know is if your thought process was, we just got to get something out there, but yes, we see some validity in your arguments, and we're willing during the next ordinance rewrite season to take a look at the size categories again and some differentiation in regulations, and I'll provide some feedback to your zoning staff of what I think would be a good approach to that. So I guess that's what I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. So if you're here during that 7A discussion,
Yep, I'll wait around for it.
okay, because it won't be that long. Because right now, we don't have public comment. None. We have no more public comment. Have no other supervisors here. So Bob will do yours. Trails.
Good morning.
Morning, Bob.
Thank you, Jacob. I thought we would update you all on the projects within the Comprehensive Trail Network Plan. This was actually a suggestion of Vince's, and this is a really simple way to provide you with an update. So that's the purpose, is to update the status of each of the projects within the Comprehensive Trail Network Plan. And it's a pretty simple table. You have your completed, ongoing, and future. Some of the ones in the future are the lower priority projects that we have yet to get to. So I think this is helpful as we move forward and periodically update you all. It could also help you with your thought process when we talk more about the Gandy feasibility study as well. So again, this is an update of all the projects within the Comprehensive Trail Network Plan. It also illustrates the equity of projects or inequity of all the projects for all the user groups. So put that in your packet if you had time to review it. Any questions at all?
It doesn't list all that we have on the back burner, doesn't it?
No, a couple of them in the future one, yes. Some of the remaining ones have no conceptual
Yeah,
design
okay.
to them, so that's why they're on the lower end.
Sure.
But yeah, I do know like E3 is for the equestrians, where we've already implemented one. That's the new trail system out in Summers
Sure.
Lake. But also there's E3 on the back end of the Comprehensive Trail Network Plan that still invites, in the event we have resources to design and develop and build additional equestrian trails on county forest land. And we've actually been approached by an equestrian group. They have some conceptual new trails. So I think Mo and I and our team will go out this fall and either walk those potential routes or get on a horse. Gotta try.
Try it, huh?
They offered, so. But to answer your question, Kim, that's an example of a low priority one that's still in the plan. Some of the other ones are just a sentence or two, so conceptually, these are the ones that we plan to implement.
Okay.
Any questions about any of those? If not, I could transition to alternative costs. I believe last meeting or the one before, we had some preliminary costs for project E2, which is, again, the feasibility study of the Gandy Dancer Trail, with some preliminary costs for equestrian alternative C. Now, that's the one that you recommended along with alternative E, which was status quo. Alternative C is adding equestrians as a shared use on the existing trail bed. If you recall, the consultants had like $10,000 a mile, a total cost of $101,000. Well, we drilled down on those numbers a little bit, and those estimates were based upon Department of Transportation, DOT unit costs. And it involved or applied to the whole corridor from St. Croix Falls to Lewis. Now, you all know this, the master plan is going to determine where the entry and where the terminus is and the seasonality, et cetera, allowed uses and all that. That earlier estimate included improving 4 parking lots within the municipalities in which the trail intersects. Well, we're looking at only building 1 new parking lot, the one in Lewis, to create a terminus, expanding just one of them. And then still doing the hitching posts. We're going to refurbish the shelter in Milltown. So anyway, long story short, our consultants have updated these costs. It's no longer 101,000, we're at 66,000. Then we also reached out to the Parks Department and to determine what the in-house costs would be for total trail implementation, and they're at 35,000. So again, that includes signage, a new parking lot at the terminus, more than likely Lewis. It's gonna be a 12,000 square foot gravel parking lot. We're gonna expand one of the existing parking lots along the corridor. We're doing hitching posts and refurbishing the shelter in Milltown. So that earlier estimate of 101 does not apply. And as you probably have received from the equestrian folks, and they've been here as well, they've informally offered to contribute financially or in kind. I think I've been told they're working on an MOU with the county. So there's that.
I will say the MOU is, what I have is a letter from them, and basically it's, they want to participate, but there's no financial or commitment rather than engage and support, and whatever comes up, they might, so there's nothing formal in terms of
Nothing formal yet.
funding or work.
The Parks come up with also, if the maintenance is gonna be.
Yeah, that's a good question, Kim. Thank you. I have that written down somewhere. Because if you recall, our consultants had a 8,000 a year.
Yeah,
So that includes surface maintenance, mowing, vegetative control or vegetation control, and of course, horse litter collection.
okay.
Yep.
So that's SRF's estimate. The Parks Department has offered me $1,000 a year for those.
For the extras. Is that for the full length? Or not 1,000 a mile or something like that again?
No.
No, it's the full length.
full
Okay,
length, yeah.
all right.
So Bob, I got confused a little bit. You said 66,000, then you went into some other things. What's the total cost of this gonna be? That's
Okay, there's 2 estimates to
two
implement.
estimates, okay.
We have DOT So if we were to farm it out, 66,000 for total trail implementation. If we were to do it in-house, it's 35,000.
Okay.
Again, that's signage, a new parking lot, expanding an existing one, hitching posts and refurbishing a shelter in Milltown.
It's also then a rewrite of the master plan.
No, we've also revised those costs.
Oh,
And
okay.
you know, it's interesting. I just finished these. So if you're interested, I can forward these on to you. And Vince, I'll get these to you as well. I just got them done. But we do have some revised costs for updating the master plan. If you recall, I shared with you what the cost would be for a consultant. It's roughly 500 hours of their time and then 400 hours of staff time. Total cost, I already shared this with you, is 110,000. Now, if we were to do it in-house, some folks argue that, well, this is a fixed cost. So if we, county staff, were to do it, we're looking at 630 hours of staff time. That includes my time, county planner, a little bit of Malia's time, based upon our wages and fringes. So 630 hours of staff time, and that equates to 35,450.
That means that's assuming you have the staff time available too,
Right,
because
yeah,
you're taking away from other things then too.
correct. As a manager, you have to plan for those things. So if we were to take this on, you know, other projects would be, would be prioritized.
Our expensive corporation counsel here. doesn't it?
She was included, but on the low end.
Yeah.
You know, that does not include
Oh,
legal fees,
If something
past,
comes up,
current,
yeah.
future.
Yeah, I'm not saying there would be, but
Yeah.
So yeah, we were just got those done. That's why I didn't put it in the packet. In fact, just finished them yesterday afternoon. I encouraged SRF, our consultants, to include all this information into their formal presentation, which is coming up at the county board on June 20th. We also have a new sort of graphic cross-section of the trail that looks at 3 different ways we could put equestrians within the right-of-way, on the bed, a bridle path, and then in the right-of-way. And you'll find that interesting. It's really, the point is to ensure that it's safe if those additional user groups are added. So you'll see that on the 20th. As well as really just the real breakdown of alternative C and alternative E. The other alternatives that we went through, really just a quick overview, and then we're diving right into
Back
those
to the
two.
ones that we recommended, okay.
So the cost that you just gave us, that's if you just put it on the same bed, correct?
I'm sorry?
The cost that you just talked about,
Yep.
put it on the bed that's already there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it would probably cost more if you put something, if you go a different way, if you do the bridle path. or
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
So the $35,000 in-house is what it would cost Polk County to add it to the existing bed only.
Correct. However, we do have a bridle path that is low cost as well. Nominal cost, but also creates that buffer in between the trail bed and a parallel trail. And we've done some cost estimates, fairly nominal in cost. The expensive one is, yes, punching the trail and right away. I think that's roughly 150,000. But that's not one of the alternatives you chose.
So.
So
it-
I guess
because
my,
of all the pinch points, and
Right.
extra, you know, overpasses and all this, and
Right.
steep slopes and stay out of all that stuff, yeah. All right.
Yeah, the reason I brought that up, I think we have a different way of looking at those three alternatives. And you'll see that at the county board later this month.
Go ahead, Doug.
Bob, I don't mean to butt in if you're not done with the question. I just have an ATV, UTV comment for the committee.
Sure.
I was reached out to by several people looking at master plan. Yeah, for the equestrians. Why don't we open up, looking at having the same use of ATVs on the existing trail, just like we have on the Cattail Trail. Yeah, they wanted us to go back and think that over. Because if the only cost would be the 35,000 that you're already talking about possibly spending. You're opening the master plan.
But I think the biggest part of that is on the Ice Age.
Ice
Trail
Age
part.
They're not talking Ice Age Trail. They know that they can't be on there, so they're talking St. Croix to Centuria and Frederick up to Burnett County.
We presented that. We did present that alternative.
You were presenting it with higher cost,
Mhm.
and now you're saying there's a possibility you're gonna open up the master plan 5,000 with staff time.
Mhm.
Well, then we can go back and look at having them on there too, because
Mhm.
cost is down to 35,000. There's no actual change of the trail that needs.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying, Doug. Yeah, well,
It could be incorporated into the study, is what you're saying. We might, if we open it up, they should be included.
Yes,
That's
what they're
yeah,
asking.
then I think if you open up the master plan, everything's open again. Then we have to kind of divide and conquer as we go on that.
correct. Supervisor Rowdy, yeah, that's the opportunity when we do, in the event we do, open the master plan. That is an alternative we can look at. As you know, our consultants identified a route, again, from St. Croix Falls to Centuria, then road route all the way to Frederick and then up to Lewis. So the concept is there. We also identified a route from the fairgrounds to Sterling. It's a road route to create a path or artery to the ATV intensive park as well as the Jack Pine, so forth. So, but in the event we open the master plan, all alternatives are on the table.
because if you have to ask the experts, but if you open the Gandy for those stretches, then ATV, UTVs gets maintenance money. So that has to be added into the final packages, that they're gonna get this money every year. Do maintenance just like they do on all trails that are approved.
That's correct.
Much money per month.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just want the committee to go back and.
If it opens up, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because, opening the master plan, everything's open.
It's a can of worms.
Yeah, it is. But, I mean, if we're down to doing it, then we're doing it, so. Okay, any other comments, questions for the trails? All right.
So yeah, we're on, well, the public hearing, the continuation is at 9:30, so we have 5 minutes. What do you want to
Go
do?
through some of the renewable, well, Steve is here.
Well-
Because then we can say. Probably not gonna detail ordinance rewrites. So we get stuff, that would be good.
Well, I will say that, and I think Jason will talk more about this, but Steve did send us a memorandum of
Okay,
his concerns. So we do have that. And just to set the table, the reason this is on the agenda, if you recall, at county board, they asked that we look at what this committee has done to accommodate REC's requests, as well as any additional objections they have. So that's why it's on the agenda.
Could
Yes.
you turn those lights down over there? Thank you.
Yep, it's on the agenda. All right, so Jacob's got it pulled up here. The draft that I'm showing you right now is the draft that we presented after the February public hearing. So after that, we took in all the public comment, incorporated the changes that we could without redoing the public hearing. So you'll see, Jacob, if you can just kind of scroll down, they're all marked in green. So Steve had brought up about defining what a battery storage system was during the public hearing, so we created that term. None of this is new. You guys have all seen this stuff before, so go ahead, Jacob, keep on going. Lisa McMahon was another party in that provided a lot of input into the draft ordinance. And so she wanted us to define what is an emergency. And the relevance behind that is to take and know what kind of emergency events they need to report back to our emergency management. Okay. Steve had brought up during the public hearing about it might be excessive to require 8 hours of training for our EMS staff every year. So we modified the text here and that to go up to 8 hours based on the need and request from our emergency management staff. Good. Steve had also brought up in that red text in that was kind of vague. What do you mean by, converting agricultural land? And since then, or since the public hearing, we had been in contact with DATCAP at the state. And commercial scale energy does not comply with their farmland preservation. So that's why we took and brought in the farmland preservation plan as far as defining that area. Or defining what that means. But we did leave the last two words here, whenever possible, and so that allows you as a committee to ultimately decide how much they need to comply with that farmland preservation plan. So. Okay. Just a little change there from Steve with the MISO standards or requirements. Provision D here, that was something that Lisa McMahon had mentioned. I guess she knows or that if you have like a wind generator and you got 3 blades on it, if you paint one blade a separate color or a weird color, that there's less bird collisions in that with that wind generator. So that's kind of just general, it's kind of a catch-all. Okay. Okay, so when we're talking wind energy and stray voltage, Lisa suggested 2 different things, including swine facilities and also including pipelines. I guess there's a lot of issues out there on the emergency management side as far as stray voltage and pipelines, which we do have in our county. We're gonna go down all the way to 19 now. Okay, well, up a little bit, they're small. The decommissioning financial assurances,
in the original draft, I had pulled text from Clark County. Clark County had 3 cost estimates, and the average of those 3 would be the financial assurance level. And that with the comments from Steve and the possibility that it might be hard to get 3 different consultants that would want to take and provide those cost estimates, we dropped it, or you guys dropped it to 2, so. And yeah, page 21. There was some concern about it being 1 mile to a half mile. I don't believe that that was Steve or Lisa. I think that was just you guys and that deciding that a mile outreach might be a little far. So that's where you backed it off to a half mile. Okay, and so those were the amendments that we had made after the public hearing, trying to address. Now, the memo that Steve provided, just, I think it was Monday here. I don't know if you guys have got a copy. We can definitely send it out to you. Basically, he's requesting, in that like a tiny scale category, that small scale 0 to 30 megawatts would be reduced to 0 to 5. The mid scale would be anything from 30 to 100 megawatts. They would, or he would try to add direct training costs to not include emergency personnel, labor, benefits, or travel expenses. And then he's got 5 different suggestions for removing provisions in the general provisions, so that they wouldn't apply to the small or the tiny category. And then general provisions would apply from 5 megawatts to 100 megawatts. And then he's got some suggestions for the wind energy provisions and the battery storage stuff. So, and then basically that the CUP process, that there would be some kind of a split so that the small scale wouldn't require the CUP. But maybe the mid scale would. That's just kind of paraphrasing and that those changes. So our response to Steve in that was that it's up to you guys on whether or not or when you want to open up the ordinance. And that if you direct us to work with Steve or however you want to go about doing that, we will definitely do that in the future. So.
All right. So that's, I'm thinking that's something we still have to, that we could work on, but we should do it at ordinance season because it is busy right now.
Yeah, I'm 2 weeks out on emails and 2 weeks and that out on phone calls right now. So I really don't have time to dive into ordinances.
So if we do it like the other ones, if we do move it back to that, I think we should look into it. I don't know what everybody else thinks, that we should at least look at his suggestions. Go ahead.
Well, I think we should look into it, but looking ahead, if we wait, then that's fine. But we should be able to bring Mr. Stroshane in and have him on the agenda so that we can discuss these things one-to-one, where he talks on public comment. We can't ask a question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, then we can. Yeah, I mean, during the rewrite season, we can do that. Yes.
He should have a chance to give us what he has even in that email and update us so we can ask questions or understand.
Or clarify things or whatever.
You send it out if you want. So.
Yeah, that's fine. I wasn't envisioning changes today. That's why I didn't send it to anyone other than you and Bob. And I don't want to imply that Jason ignored everything in my public comment. I mean, he went through the accommodations he made. It's just, do you want the small scale with some less regulations, or do you think it's fine as is? And I guess that's the only reason I'm here today.
I think if we can see what you think on that to change it, but I think we can open it up at rewrite time and then kind of go through it and see.
There's some proposed bills at the state level going on right now, especially on the wind side of it, that will probably end up opening it up.
Anyway.
Mhm.
But yeah, I can see where we got to separate it a little bit. Yes, I think.
Because I think it's good to get not just Steve's perspective, but what are they doing at the state? What, are there other counties that we should continue to be looking at their ordinances too and get feedback on that?
Sure.
From what I've seen with the proposed bills at the state, we probably wouldn't have to. Actually, I want to clarify, we probably wouldn't have to, but the county might want to open it up and that because we might be able to be a little bit more restrictive on certain things as well. So especially on the wind side.
Sure.
Just discussion that I was talking 45 years ago. A lot of testing for stray voltage, but nobody really knew what they were doing. And so I just want to see where we moved ahead on. Having that in the ordinance is someone actually tracking, being able to track it now.
Yeah, well,
All this, the cow things with the
Yeah.
dairy farm and that, you remember that? Ken?
Yeah, that was pretty big.
definitely not an expert on that. That's where we didn't have the ability to pull in outside consultants. So.
Well, we ran a little over too bad.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
I appreciate the clarification. I guess that's all I was looking for today, so.
I think if you want, they send that out, so we have time to walk through it too, would be good. Well, Jason, if they have copies sent to us.
Well, that's pretty rough. I mean, I knew this meeting was coming up and I wanted to get something in Jason's hands so he kind of knew where I was coming from. So there's time to do it during slower periods.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right. We are going to jump in. We're gonna do it right in order.
Sure. We had already opened and closed the public hearings on these at the April 19th committee meeting. We do have one new applicant though, and that the Sarah and Jared Haas request. So that one we will have to hold a public hearing on. And I guess, do you want to revisit in that each property kind of with some of the pictures so that you know which one it is, or do you guys remember them all pretty good? How do you want to proceed with each application?
Justin wasn't here in April, but
Well, do we want to see some of the pictures again of each one to be safe?
I guess my thought right now is one of these, I don't know if I have a record of that or Jason does, but I'd like to see the opposition letters or the number of one of these as we go through.
Okay. Do you want to see the letters too?
No, just really just.
Okay. And that, so for their first applicant, it's the Cozy Bear 2 LLC. We had 4 letters that were objecting specifically to this request, but there was 12 letters in opposition. So both Cozy Bear and the Ronald Reek request, those are both on Bear Trap Lake. So what I mean by 4 letters specific to the application is that they were only talking about this property, and then the other 8, and that we're talking about both the Reek and the Cozy Bear request, or hey, we don't want any more short-term rentals on Bear Trap Lake, you know, so those are the kind of comments that we had. And all those were provided to you guys on the 18th, the day before the hearing via email, so.
So total 12 on the first one, 8 on the second. Okay.
Yeah, 12 was on both of them, and then Reek had 1 specific letter of opposition for that property, and then there was the 8 shared, and that from Cozy Bear and the Reek one, so. You just want me to go down through them and
Yeah,
mention
you
all
might
of
as well-
them?
yeah, you might as well do that
Okay.
first. Yeah, till we get to the. just not the F, I guess, C, D. and E.
Okay, the Goldfarb request, we had 4 letters in opposition. The Duknowski in Bone Lake, we had 1 letter in support. And the Duknowski in McKinley, we had 3 letters in opposition. And then we had the owner's comment. Eric had sent that email and that just kind of explaining about their process to vet applicants and stuff, or potential renters, I should say. And so we had that email with those 2 applicants. And so far, the Haas one, we have not received any comments for or against.
All right, well, let's start with the Cozy Bear. But I see they don't understand what the 7 days means. I want to rent my property more than 7 days a month, looking to rent as much as possible. So they don't understand this. It's a 7-day one time, but 180 days total. A year.
No, so our current ordinance provision for an administrative permit is 174 days per year, and then you can do 7 days a month from May to September.
Oh, it is.
And
Okay.
that, yep. And so the state has the right to rent law, and the right to rent law allows a county to limit the amount of rental to 180 days if you want to. You can also limit or require it to be consecutive days or not within the year. And you can also require a minimum rental period of up to 7 days and that, so if you wish. So anything 7 days or less is possible. You couldn't request a minimum rental stay of 8 days or more, so.
Okay. Miss Malaya. We take each one of these, we don't go by any of the other things that we did before or after, how do we
Analyze each one. on its own
analyze each one?
Unique characteristics.
Its unique characteristics.
So it might be helpful to have Jason run down any recommendations on findings of fact.
Okay.
For each one.
Each one, so we just do one at a time, maybe then, if we do that. Okay.
Can you pull up the Cozy Bear? It's a Word document, the only Word document underneath that folder. Scroll down just a little bit, Jay. Oh, okay, so our findings of fact is that they're wanting to operate a tourist rooming house more than 174 days a year or 7 days a month, May to September. The property is on Bear Trap Lake. It's Class 1 lake. This is on the east side of the bay that goes down to County Road F. Just to remember, it's kind of on that point. The property is 0.45 acres, 110 feet of shoreline at the lake. There's no wetlands and only a small amount of floodplain right down on the shore. If you remember, they kind of had that flat spot down there. The property is accessed out from a town road. It's an older cabin. There's no recent permits on the property. The dwelling is over 75 feet back from the lake. The applicant had purchased the property in 2021. They are served by public sewer system. There is no current permits on the property, and then the right to rent law, which I already went over, and the county's pending Realtors Association claim has tourist rooming house provisions mentioned in it. And then the county sent out the proper Class 2 notice prior to the April 19th hearing. So we had for findings on the 19th.
Okay, So we have not received anything from our lawsuit yet to update us on anything?
We filed an answer.
Okay. Would that affect any of these that we're doing?
The outcome of that litigation could affect, yes.
Okay, so say we said, no, it's as we have it right now. We'd still be all right, but if we say yes to more, can we rescind that if it changes?
I would suggest that if you're going to say no, that you say yes, but at least allow the 180 days per year consecutive
To
7-day
make the
minimum,
at
minimum
least,
statutory minimum.
to start with, in case something else comes up, would be the way. I'm
Depending.
just
on
trying to
how
think,
this ends up.
because of all that comes out.
Right, because if you say just flat no, and you don't have any specific reasons looking at the findings of
Findings of
fact,
fact.
other than the litigation, then I don't
isn't
think that
much.
would,
Okay,
that wouldn't stand up. But having the statutory minimum would be very defensible.
okay. And then after this, then they would have to come back or something if there was even a chance for more, or there might not be a chance.
Well, if they're
Okay.
not happy with your decision, they can appeal it to the Board of Adjustment.
Sure. Okay,
And they could also reapply, after a year or more, if they had good behavior, and that, and ask for more days at that time through another CUP process, so.
all right. Does that help everybody a little bit more or not? I'm just thinking that with that, what if they come up, if it's over 180 days, it's considered commercial, and we give them 200 days.
What I want you to do is not consider the litigation in determining your decision today.
Not-
Right, because the litigation, we don't know the outcome.
Sure,
But if you base a decision on the fact that there's litigation, it's not basing it on the ordinance, it's not basing it on the evidence that you've received. So you need to look at the application, set the fact that there's a lawsuit aside that might impact whatever decision you make at some point. Make a decision based on the current ordinance and the facts as you find them.
okay. I gotta process that for 10 seconds because that's why I thought we put it off for 2 weeks. So, all right. All right, then,
I mean, if you look at what Jason provided to you
correct.
and consider, maybe have a discussion on some of these topics.
Well, we have the check sheet, so let's start asking the questions on that. Let's, everybody pick a couple questions to ask.
Well, it's hard because I find this just a little difficult to use because it's not specific to short-term rentals. So there's a lot of things like, is it in a floodplain? They're on a lake, it's that we're not making a decision based on that. Has the applicant proposed to prevent water pollution, including sedimentation? It's a hard one to answer. I don't know.
If they're not building or anything, I mean, I think if it doesn't apply, I think we should just ask the next question.
Okay,
You know what I mean? If like that, if it's not, because if it has wetlands or anything on the property, that's usually one of the findings,
Correct. Yep.
or something. So I mean, if none of that applies, you should just go to the next one.
okay. So you start right at the beginning?
Let's start at the beginning and start going through them.
So is the use safe? It doesn't say, we're not seeing anything that says the use is unsafe, are we?
No, so that one would be all right.
Will it maintain the public health? Well, the ordinance says they have to go through the health department and all that has to be checked, right?
these questions and that were originally kind of created and that for you to be able to ask the applicant, you know, and I think you guys are struggling and that to determine whether or not the applicant has carried the burden of proof that they have met these criteria. And, you know, I mean, I honestly think that you're putting yourself in a tough spot, not legal or anything like that, but you're trying to create the applicant's application for them to justify whether or not the applicant is approved. And I don't see the applicant here or their agent today. But I mean, I think these are questions in that if you don't find the information in the application that you would deem that the application is incomplete. And then you could either postpone again until the applicant would show up. They were here at the last meeting. They knew that it was gonna be postponed to today as a date certain. You know, you could postpone the application on that because of that. I think you could also say that the applicant hasn't carried the burden of proof of meeting those criteria in the ordinance, and you could possibly deny because of that, you know, and that it's their obligation and that to prove these criteria to you. But I think it would be easier for you guys as the decision makers to be able to ask these questions to the applicant and make them provide you an answer. And then you're just like a judge or an evaluator. Judge isn't really the right word, but an evaluator, and that saying, yeah, I agree with that, that it's not going to be against the public health, you know, being what they said, that they're going to, you know, provide the quiet hours, they're going to provide, you know, and that parking off the street, you know, and that they're going to limit the number of cars that they're going to allow, you know, so, but let them come up with the facts, so.
All right,
Kind of agree because based on this not being a property that is licensed already, you know.
Yep.
And they're not here to
to answer
defend
the question.
themselves,
Yeah,
you know,
So instead of a flat out, no, we should just,
not enough information.
have enough and just postpone it. Is this the first two? Are they both the same owners?
Yes, that week and the.
Yep.
Okay.
If you remember, they had their property manager here and that last time and that did some speaking. So
Yeah.
I don't think Ron really spoke himself.
No.
Maybe he did, but
Okay. So then without him being here, Malia, would that be safer, Malia, than to postpone because they're not here? I mean, I guess we're,
sure.
I mean, we're not,
The ordinance clearly allows you to ask questions of the applicant and ask them to provide more information, and that's what you're doing.
okay.
I'm kind of surprised they're not
Um,
here today.
And they still are able to rent the Airbnb. They just don't, this is just pertaining to the conditional use permit.
Well, they don't have
They don't
the
have one
in
land
there.
use permit. They could certainly apply for that
Apply for
between
that.
now.
Yeah.
and that, sure.
And that would, and then that would just be the based on the ordinance. Okay,
They would just get the one right through Jason and
yeah.
not this one.
yeah,
Okay.
Is it just the one, Jason, the Cozy Bear that they don't have a current permit for, or is it the other one too?
both of them and that don't have any current
Okay, so neither one of them.
administrative,
have
yeah.
current.
They haven't pulled a permit on 7 days.
And then, no, and that, so they did file applications if their CUP was granted, that then they wanted to take and be able to rent the full amount and that, but it's just simply a blank form that they signed with a check is all we've got on it right now. So, but yes, they would be able to come through for the administrative side.
So then we should be able to, I'll entertain a motion for A and B then. Do we have to, we wouldn't have to renotice these, would we?
And that, no, and that, but I think we should act on each application separate. So,
Oh, do each, okay, do, yes, okay. Yep,
and then if you wanted to postpone to your next meeting, you could. If you would table it to your next meeting, and that, then there's gotta be a decision made that day. And that versus if you postpone, you could kick it down the road again if you needed
in
to,
case
if they
don't
weren't
show
here.
again, at least it isn't a flat, no, okay, so the.
Maybe they're
motion
busy
is
that day,
postpone.
you know, so.
Okay. So. Any motion for that?
I make a motion to postpone the Cozy Bear 2 LLC application to the next meeting, which is in 2 weeks.
21st,
What is it?
June
20.
21st, we do have a draft agenda going. It's,
Pretty full already.
yeah,
So August or July.
July 5th, which is, available. It is right after the holiday. We'll be here.
Is anybody gonna be sober?
Alternatively, then you got July 19th.
I don't plan on being in office on the 5th, so.
Okay, I didn't think so. So it'd be July 19th,
July 19th.
July 19th.
yeah. We have a meeting on the 5th.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah, because nobody be here. I don't think the building's open, is it?
Yeah, I
We
think
can
it
open
is.
it just for us.
The 4th
right?
is a Tuesday, so, and we're open on Monday, so we'd be open on the Wednesday as well.
Oh,
We'll be here.
But that doesn't mean everybody's gonna be here. A lot
Yes.
of people, but most people just take that Monday off.
sure.
So whatever. But if Jason's not here and
That's
several of you
pointless.
may not be
Yeah.
available, I would be comfortable with the 19th.
Okay.
Since you're not here, we can't do it.
Yeah,
You guys can still go on without me.
so
I'm not making the decision.
I make a motion.
Yeah, Sharon made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Tracy, all right. No other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, that would be A, it's to the 19th. How about B then?
I make a motion to postpone the REAP application to 7/19.
Okay,
Second.
Doug. Nothing, all those in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
All right.
And just to clarify, both of those motions to postpone were because the applicant had not explained the criteria in the application and you wish to seek or gather more information from the
Exactly.
applicant. So, yeah.
All right.
Jacob, can you pull up the Goldfarb one then? And again, this one here, we had the 4 letters in opposition on. It's on Middle Pine Lake. The applicant wishes to run the tourist rooming house more than 174 days in the 7 days per month. The property is 1.8 acres in size, and there's roughly 200 feet of shoreline at the lake. There's no floodplain, but there is a small little wetland kind of on the south side of the property down by the lake. The property is off from a private road. The property does meet the 75-foot setback and the applicant purchased the property in 2020. There's a newer 3-bedroom mound sanitary system that was installed in 2021. The area was impacted by that storm that a few years back, so there's a lot of downed trees. If you remember in the pictures, a lot of dead red pine. And there was a tourist rooming house permit that was issued in November of 2021, but it was not renewed in time, so the property falls underneath the current ordinance standards. I will say in that we did not receive any complaints against the property, and that when they were operating between November of 21 and November of 22. The right to rent law applies to this application as well, so that's 180 days and the 7-day minimum rental, if you guys want to enforce that. And then the county sent out the proper notices prior to the April 19th public hearing. You guys also had some other findings in that it does have a private well. And then again, that it was a 3-bedroom as confirmed by the building inspector underneath that original permit. That should be everything on those findings. And the applicant is here if you do want to ask those questions on the decision document.
I'm looking right at the application too. Has maintenance safe? It hasn't changed. No heavy equipment. Heavy traffic isn't in there, water pollution doesn't count. Vegetation. There is a wetland. It's not impacted by what they're doing. Slope. No future roads.
Jason, this is a current permitted one, right? We're just asking
Well,
for more.
technically it expired in November of 22, but it was previously permitted. So he just didn't get in his yearly renewal in time. But before that, it did not fall underneath the 7-day provision because that 7-day provision that was spring of 22 is when it kicked in. So he was operating underneath the old conditions prior to that, so.
Do they have the 7-day permit or new one?
And that, not right now, no. So,
Was 4 objections was all.
4 objections, yeah. Most of them were like the property owners along that private road going up in there. It's a dead end private road, fairly short, so.
Okay. Till we're done, let's see if we got any questions. We have anything to add, please? Anyone?
So objections were from the private road. The neighbor immediately closest to our property did not have an objection. And I don't know if it's on the non-renewal, I don't know if the county is supposed to send out a renewal. I've had licenses in different counties. I've never received the renewal, but the point is if I were to have received it and I would have sent it in, I wouldn't be here because I've been operating under the good neighbor and et cetera for a couple of years already. So I think that's, please take that into note. And I also operate an Airbnb in Minneapolis that has had over 175 stays in 3 years and a much, on a quarter acre lot. And we've had 0 complaints because we have a strict no party policy that we screen people. They have to have a certain number of reviews. We don't just rent to anybody. And I understand why neighbors would be concerned, but I've already spoken to them about that. Giving me the nod, but they have not removed their complaints formally.
Questions of the owner?
But you could still have, you said that you wouldn't have been here if you had gotten a notice to renew your permit,
Right.
but you're asking for something totally different today than the regular permit, right?
No, it would be the same as what he had before.
Yeah, the same as
I would
what
actually have more rights if I would have renewed it, but I didn't know that. I didn't know this ordinance was coming and I didn't know there was renewal that I missed because I didn't receive it.
He was under the old ordinance before.
I would have been grandfathered.
So he was between 2019 and the 2022 changes because his permit
Okay,
was in November of 21. So he was underneath the renewal. The health department sends out yearly renewals and that for their health department license and that, but we don't. We consider it just like a normal building. We don't know if people are wanting to continue or not. So maybe we should. It's just a lot more administration again. So.
And I can completely understand that about my administration, but I've had licenses for many different rentals, not just short term in many counties, and I've never not received a notice because it's just what I'm used to. And had I known, I simply would have sent it in. I would have had full rights as I had before. So I kind of got stuck in a weird glitch,
Well, if the health department sent you one, that would have been the red flag that you had.
I can't say they didn't, but I didn't receive anything that I'm aware of.
Buyer beware.
Sure.
So based on that, Jason, that it expired underneath the old, are we basing our decision now off of the new because it had expired, or are we going off of the old still?
No, you'd be underneath the new ordinance and that because that permit expired. Yep. We actually get a lot of these renewals. I mean, there's, a lot of them that are coming in and that, and they just probably have it on their calendar and that, and they just mail them in, so. Mhm.
Right.
And so when we say extend the number of days, and what did it actually say in the application again?
Been operating short-term for over 4 years.
But I mean, what are they asking for? How many days? I don't have that application in front of me right now.
I would like to have as many as is reasonable. I didn't put a number in, because I'm not sure where, what the climate is,
You like me to read the narrative in the application, Sharon?
Sure.
Since you don't have it? Okay. We have been operating short-term rentals for over 4 years. Both properties are homes we live in. We have strict guidelines for our guests that includes no parties, maximum numbers of guests and cars. The property in question has already been a short-term rental in 2021 to 2022 with no negative impact to the neighbors. We use a professional cleaning service and maintain their property as if it was our own. Because it is. We love this place, the lake and the community, and with our wish to be excellent neighbors. We also have a new septic system. So.
Well, we didn't need to put the septic system in, but I did that willingly because we had an old septic system. I didn't want to run the lake, so I spent 15 grand preventatively.
Go through the findings of facts, see if anything else comes up.
Yep, that's kind of what I went down at the start.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
Okay. Right there. Suggestions.
So is this kind of a two-part deal, Jason? We're giving them a CUP or the conditional use permit, and then we have to act on how many days?
Nope, and then the conditions that you assign to the permit, and that would be part of the motion and that for it. So I do have some possible conditions if you guys are going down the path of possibly granting. But you guys can create your own, of course, too.
Well, let's go down yours. Let's see
Yeah, I'd like
what
to
we
see
should,
yours
let's
too.
see
Help
what
if I
staff
request,
suggests.
since I didn't make a request, would it help if I make a formal request, or is it,
Well, let's see what he's,
More requests for
as far
what?
as like, they're like, how many days, I didn't know what was reasonable in this,
Go ahead and
because there,
scroll down if you would, Jacob. Okay, so here's the 12 criteria and that are in the ordinance. So the conditions that are starting here, those are similar to what you guys have approved the other two applicants with. The maximum of 6 people at any time on the property, that comes from the 3-bedroom sanitary system and the 3 bedrooms that was confirmed by the building inspector, that there was 3 legal buildings or 3 legal bedrooms in the building. A lot of these here are normal ones. Providing it to the neighbors as far as the contact number within 300 feet. Property remaining free of charges, nuisance, that kind of is a catch-all. Proper licensing, quiet hours, 11 PM, quiet hours from 10 to 8 AM. Scroll down a little bit more, Jacob. Pets must be contained on the property lines surveyed. Those are all existing sewer system to be inspected. The zoning office can require additional inspections for the sewer and for the building inspectors. This is a big one here, Q, for us as far as enforcement or administration, to make sure that the land use permit number and the health department numbers are in their ad on Airbnb or VRBO. Helps us make sure that they're permitted. Now, Jacob. Ours is kind of unique. That's not one of our normal conditions, and that the permit is non-transferable, so that they would have to reapply if the property changes hands. The permit holder shall apply for their yearly renewal before the expiration date. T is one of the ones that the Wisconsin right to rent law allows for, creating that minimum rental period of 7 days. That's not a requirement, though. You guys could say it's 3 days or 2 days or whatever you want it to be. The fire extinguisher there just for protection of the renters. Making sure that they do their stuff with the state. That floor plan, showing everything. Having a plan that shows where the parking would be. And then you guys on the first one did 180 days per year. And then 20 days per year on that reward for basically having no complaints or verified violations. So.
There's quite a few conditions, isn't there?
It was a consensus before in that, the right to rent law allows you guys to require those 180 days to be consecutive. And it was your guys' consensus before not to make it consecutive, because if they want to rent a few days during the winter and then that takes the pressure off during the summer months. So that's why I didn't include that in here,
Oh,
just for clarification.
sure, for the
So.
180. All right. Does everybody think, looking at this one? All right. So, it has been done before.
But
Has
do
no
we,
complaints.
like the 180 and then if nothing happens, then we give them another 20, and then is it another 20 and another 20? Do they eventually just get to rent 365? Means that,
That's the way it's worded, yeah. So.
I'm not aiming for that, so I don't care. I'm not.
So if I can ask the applicant, what is your wish? Like how many days? are you looking
Ideally,
for?
ideally, I'd like a minimum rental period of 4 days and to have 180 days any time of the year.
And that's what you had previous?
And I think previously, actually, I don't know how it was written. I think it was anything. It was anything. I'm actually going backwards from what I had. So, I'm trying,
So you could simply remove this sentence from the if to the end, and just strike that and then reduce the 7 down to 4 is what he's saying. So.
right? I mean, I'd like 3. I'm aiming to rent these out by the week if I rent it all. I'm not even sure I like the option. 3 would be ideal because it would give me more flexibility, but I don't want to push my luck.
So in T, we would go to 4. Y, we would go.
Take out the
Take
last
AF, the
sentence.
whole last sentence. Everybody feeling that?
I'm
I
okay
like
with
that.
that.
I think it's,
So
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we make those changes. And approve it with those changes.
Okay,
second that.
there's a second, Tracy. Any other discussion?
Thank you very much.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Is that 4 days and then 180?
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
just a clarification with Jason. In our discussion from before, when we were asking for 180 days consecutive, it was because it helps you keep track of it if you don't start here and end here.
yeah,
But we didn't say consecutive, no.
No, I know.
that's what we
That's
did,
why I'm
yeah,
asking.
that's what he's asking.
Yeah,
Might want to keep a log on that.
People log on the amount of days per year. That's a lot of days. I don't know that. Sure.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of it's tracked through Airbnb or VRBO. They've got their calendar blocked off, and stuff, and that some, so.
In the rental.
Yeah.
so put a thing in your calendar for a year from now to make sure you renew your permit.
And they should have their revenue too, and that, I mean, when they're getting the payments and stuff, they should have an idea how many, and I mean, and then we'd be able to take that times the 4, so, yeah.
That's the way we
Yeah,
discussed
that's
it.
what we're kind of watching.
So then I would have to reapply for a conditional use permit.
Just a land use permit through us and that for the $500 and that. So do that before you start renting. So, okay.
All right,
And then
thank
it's
you.
just a yearly renewal for 150 after that. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one. They here. Oh. Oh,
So that one,
There's two of them.
they have two.
Yeah, two.
one at a time.
Yep. Do we have questions?
Do we have room, Bob, on July 19th for them as well?
Yes, ma'am.
I would make a motion to postpone to July 19th
First one.
for the first one, yes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next one. And so the second.
And the
one.
basis of that was because the applicant isn't here and you'd like to have more information or some dialogue with the applicant.
Okay,
So I make a motion, we postpone to 7/19 for that second one.
okay.
I'll second that.
And second. Cheers. All right, then. All those in favor then say aye. Okay.
On the same reasoning as the other one,
Yep.
Yes.
just clarifying, just so you have everything reasoned.
Do you want this back?
Isn't it?
This one's done.
That one. That's one. I have two.
Jacob, can you pull up the Haas folder?
No, that's a new one.
I can really?
Okay, I didn't get it
Could've
either.
sworn we emailed it. Let me make copies. So 5 then? 5 copies?
6.5.
6.5.
We got 6.5.
And then can you pull up the GIS map too with that parcel?
I don't know, I read it.
I didn't see.
I think I
that.
read it online. If I did.
Looking to see, I don't,
My email.
Nicole sent it.
Nicole sent it?
Nicole Schmidt sent it. That was called.
Decision letter.
She sent us a letter, DOA ones, the 7th.
5:30.
Just today.
On the computer, sorry.
Oh, that's all the other ones. There's a label. Oh, it's not there, is it?
It
Duncan,
says-
no, it is not this one.
Are you looking on the 5:30 email?
Was it on the 5:30? That's
No.
Board of Adjustment.
Open my county email.
Oh, such a luck.
Here it is. Letters to the, she sent it on the,
Zoom in.
yeah.
Is there opposition?
Dude, I think there was a couple letters.
There's-
It was just all. I got mine right here. When she sent it. Go back a little farther. 2023-6/7 Haas scan for the application.
You did find an email? So you did find her email or
I
not?
found an email of it because I remember reading it.
Okay. Yeah, it was pretty early. on.
Yeah,
She's on top of it, so it was a while ago.
yeah, so it was. See what the date was.
Are you guys the neighbors or are you?
I'm Sarah.
You're Sarah?
We're
Okay.
immediate neighbors.
Okay, okay.
So would have been 5/24.
Yep, that's what that's right.
You got went back that far. Holy man. Yeah. Because I remember reading.
Oh,
it
yeah,
and
no,
stuff.
they did. They're finding the email back on the 24th. She did her job. We just didn't do
Yeah.
ours.
Better read your packets. Yeah.
Ready to open her up?
She had to step out
Okay.
for a second. Sure. And he did it in 3 minutes, so we got 3 to go.
Thanks.
Wait forever for a repair guy and they come when you're in the middle of the meeting.
That's the rule.
All right. Let's open up this public hearing.
Okay, so public hearings open at 10:24 for Sarah and Jared Haas. They request a conditional use permit under section 42-237 parentheses C parentheses 1 parentheses P of the Polk County Code of Ordinances to extend the number of tourist rooming house rental days for a parcel located at 1810 60th Avenue in section 1, town 32 north, range 18 west, town of Alden. The parcel number is 002-00937-0000, and it's 0.61 acres total. This property is a little bit different than the other tourist rooming house applications that we've received because this property is a non-riparian parcel, so there's no water access to it. There's no wetlands or floodplain on the property, but the property is accessed by a private driveway. That's a shared driveway that goes out to County Road K. The applicant purchased the property in 2023 here. It was actually April 4th is when the deed was recorded. They're wanting to operate a tourist rooming house for more than the 174 days a year or the 7 days a month from May to September. There is a 3-bedroom conventional sanitary system on site that was installed in 2009. There wasn't a lot of permits in that on the property. There was one permit to do the porch addition, which you'll see in the photos, and then there was a garage attached to the house that was permitted in year 2000. And they are not currently permitted as a tourist rooming house, so we don't have any past history or anything with it. The right to rent law requires the minimum of 180 days of rental, but it does allow you guys to determine whether or not those days would be consecutive and if there is a minimum rental period of up to 7 days. And the county has sent out the notices and published this request in the paper for class 2 notice before this meeting. So with that, Jacob's got the aerial image up on the map. Can you zoom out a little bit? And so the Haas property is right here. It's lot number 2. So you can see the shared driveway up here that comes in and then goes out to County Road K. Big Lake is across the street. It's class 1 lake. Their sewer system is laying back here. There's pretty good yard area out here, quite a bit of room for parking. The Haases also do have shared 1/3 interest with Outlot 1 for their access, in case you were concerned about that. With that, we can jump into the pictures. Okay. So the picture that's on the screen right now, this is the cul-de-sac driveway that I pointed out on the GIS. My back is at County Road K. The Haas dwelling is back here. That's the porch addition that they put on. Or not the current people, but previous, so go ahead.
What is that container or whatever it is?
That would be on the neighbor's property, so,
Okay.
yep. This is what would be Outlot 1. Basically, it's their driveway going back to their place. Just kind of a photo of showing you the proximity of the applicant's house and the neighboring dwelling. This is looking farther down the driveway, looking back towards Big Lake and the approach or the access. There's a small wetland area there, but that's on Outlot 1, not on the lot with the dwelling. This is that area up by the house itself. So here was the garage expansion that they did in year 2000, right there. This top here is all big deck, so you'll see photos of that. This is the sewer tank and that, which is just on the left-hand side of the dwelling. There. Okay. I'm in the backyard right now, and I'm looking towards the lake, of course. This is the top side of that garage, and this is the access coming down. This is basically a picture of the backyard and the sewer system that's laying in the backyard. Okay. It's not a huge area, but it is what it is. Looked like the ramp going up to the deck was kind of rotten. So I don't know how much that deck has been used. There's also some deck boards and that were loose. It was a bank-owned property prior to the applicants purchasing it. This is the deck, and I'm looking kind of towards the lake. The lake would be off to our left here. This is the front side of the deck, kind of the view of the lake. This would be County Road K right here, but then that is the neighbor's house that we had photos of as well. It's another picture of the deck area. Is that it? Okay. As I mentioned earlier, we have not received any letters of support or objection on this application. That's what I've got for
What was the sewer size? You said it was a 3-bedroom?
it's a 3-bedroom conventional. Yep. It was installed in 2009.
So it looks like there was enough parking out front there in the picture you had.
Well, I'd be concerned about the deck and that ramp. That ramp didn't look safe.
No, it's gonna be replaced.
Okay. I would make sure that we note that.
Okay. You can put that as a condition for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Everybody.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like.
In front, right there in front,
There.
Yeah,
3-car garage, so they got these 3 cars out front, they can put right in front of the garage.
There's quite a bit of space there to park, so. mhm,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Because this is really, you know, in that the house lot, you know, going back to the GIS, can you pull up the GIS?
The parking. There's always a concern with all these other ones.
Mhm.
So it's got 1/3 ownership access. So lot 1, 2, and 3 are all using lot 1. But a lot of that area that is available for parking is gonna be on their lot, not on that outlot. So
And that, there's nothing on the back lot. right now,
there's
right?
no building
No
back
buildings or
here yet.
anything way back, is there?
Right, so that yard area that I was showing you is like right here, so that's probably getting close to that lot line though. So
Where the septic is in the back.
Yep.
Okay.
it's probably getting pretty close to the back lot line.
This way, they own part of a private road, that kind of helps. So that, for me, it's.
And you
they're
didn't hear
getting-
anything from that neighbor that's real close. Nothing.
There is a neighbor here and that, I'm not sure which one they are, so.
We are immediately where it's,
To the left of the.
sorry. Where it's,
north.
right- yeah,
Yeah.
right here.
Okay.
All right, well, that's your staff report. Should we have the people come up?
Yep.
You want to speak, if you want to come up and,
Do you want to go
Anything?
up and talk, or do you want me, do you want to go together?
Or do you want me to talk first?
you can go first. Are you the owner?
Yeah.
Come on up and do yours first and then see.
My husband sent me to do this on my own. So.
There's consequences.
He's like, well, you can do it. You know more about it. I was like, but you know, I get anxiety about this stuff. So anyway, a couple things on
State your name.
Sarah Haas.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
How are you, Kim?
Good.
So the reason that we went ahead, so we purchased the property, like I said, back in March. And after talking with Jason and Jacob at zoning, trying to decide which to go with the short-term rental or the CUP. I determined based on, because when we purchased this property, so my husband's a dairy farmer, we purchased this property for personal use because we don't go anywhere. And then we also purchased it, we also own Croyview Farm in Farmington, which is a wedding venue. So we purchased it as an extension of that because where we are, there's not a lot of lodging options. So we purchased it as an option for our couples to utilize on the weekends that they have their weddings to stay in. So they have a place to stay. So my intention with the CUP was, just trying to be proactive, looking at what if a couple wanted to do a mini moon. A lot of our couples get married, then they go to Jamaica in January. What if they wanted to do a short little mini honeymoon of 7 days? And I can only rent then those 7 days that month. So just based on what I understood of the ordinance, I thought it made more sense to do the CUP. I don't foresee us renting more than 180 days a year. We will rent in the winter as well, but it'll be more of like a personal use and then as an extension of the business, as well as we will be vetting on Airbnb and VRBO. But with the CUP, my intentions were always to follow the ordinances with the short-term rental in terms of quiet hours, extinguishing fires, parking, all the things kind of laid out rule-wise that way. And then also other things that we do not plan, we're gonna list on Airbnb and VRBO so that they can help vet. Because who spends $230,000 on a house and lets people come in and destroy it? So we will be making sure that whoever's coming in, I like the no party rule, whoever that guy was, so I'm gonna go with that too. And then also in terms of like pets would be only like for our own pets and people that, personally would be our own pets and then those of our friends that come. And my goal would be to rent to families because it's a 3-bedroom. That'd be a place families could come year after year and rent and just enjoy some time away. Yeah. So that was kind of the reasoning behind the CUP rather than the short-term rental.
Okay.
And we went through the CUP process for the barn and that was kind of painless. Kinda. That was 8 years ago, so I was younger and more ambitious.
Any questions of the owner? All right, thank you. Are you here to talk for or against, either one?
For. And I hate talking in front of public more than you do.
Oh, I love it. I just not this kind of.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm Rochelle Starbuck, my husband Robert Starbuck. We are at 1808. And we own the wetlands. I think one of our only concerns besides noise, and I like what the guy said about no parties, we're completely for the fact no parties. We are extremely pleased. We have not met your husband yet, but we're extremely pleased what they have done with the house. We knew the former, and I don't mean the bank owned, but we knew the former neighbors. And all I can say is good riddance. I'm sorry. One of the concerns that we have, and it's not with you, it would be with people who would stay. We don't want the wetlands harmed. We have been keeping the wetlands clear because of DNR. And we like to have our property look good. And from what you have been doing, and I will kudos to you. And they're not even living there as of yet or staying there. It looks a whole lot better. We're not concerned about a business because I don't think it's the kind of business that's going to devalue any property in the area. We had a new business 3 years ago. Sorry, we had a new business 3 years ago. That's the one with the moving module in the neighboring lot, iHouse storage. And they have actually been, I don't want to say a pleasure, but they have been, I think they've been very welcome to the community after the fact. I think it was a bit of a hard adjustment in the beginning, but now we're even utilizing them. So it's been a positive. And I think that in today's day and age, to keep our area good, I think what Sarah and your husband Jared want to do, I think that would be a good thing. I mean, we didn't write in because we figured, well, we're not opposed to it, so why not come here and show our support for them instead? So I don't know what, you can ask what you would like of us, so.
Well, I think the concern on the wetlands is just, it's only on the way in. It isn't really where they're gonna be much of it.
Right,
So
they actually own
There's a teeny piece of
Yeah.
wetland that is on their
with their
property.
part owned.
a very, very small piece, but we actually maintain the land all around it. We make sure it's cut and whatnot. We've actually been, and not because it's anything, we've been maintaining part of, there's another, I don't want to call it driveway, but there's another access to the back of their property, to the hill. That, I don't think that there was a picture taken of that. It's completely overgrown right now, and we've been actually maintaining that only because nobody's been living there for so long. So that's why we've been maintaining it.
All right. Any questions of? All right. Thank you.
Okay, should we look at some findings of fact?
Yes, let's go through those.
Okay, so just for the findings, we got that they're wanting to operate to a streaming house 174 days a year, or more than 174, more than the 7 days a month. It's a non-riparian 0.61 acre lot. There's no floodplain or wetlands on the property in it, and I'm talking just that lot too, because that's the application is on, and that not the out lot. It's accessed by the county road and that access shared driveway. They bought the property just in April. And the property has that 3-bedroom sanitary system in 2009. The garage was added on in 2000. And they're not currently operating as a tourist rooming house. The right to rent law. And then the fact that the county provided the proper class 2 notice prior to the hearing.
There was no letters of objection, could almost be there too.
Correct, yep.
All right. So let's keep going. So the standards ones.
Yep, those are 12 standards and that out of the ordinance, section 42-149. Keep on going, Jacob. So if there was. So that's in my copy paste error. So if there is the possibility of granting it, provision A should be changed to a maximum of 6 people at any time on the property. That would be the 2 people per bedroom. Based on the sanitary size. And then you don't even have to have B in there either. So remove B. Everything else should be good. So scroll on down and then I had the 180 days. Keep going. So minimum rental period of 7 days. I don't know if that is agreeable to the applicant. But then that 180-day provision here as well. Otherwise, it's the same condition list as what we had before, except for A and B there, which is my goof. So
What were you thinking?
Sharon, on the application, Sharon, it says more than 7 days.
Yeah, I was confused. Per month, okay.
There are months between May and October that will have, we might, this year is weird, but generally, I have at least 2 weddings a weekend. So even if I was only renting to my couples, you know, that would take up 6 of my days.
Sure.
And I would like to have the option to have more. And like I said, if someone wanted to rent it, you know, from Friday of their rehearsal to maybe the following Thursday, you know, and then maybe then there's another couple in that same month that wants to rent just for the weekend. Obviously, I would surpass that 7 days. So I just wanted to have the option if that occurred in a month that, you know, that would be something that we could, I just don't want to, you know, I'm just trying to follow the letter of the law, I guess.
Yeah. So as far as a minimum number of days though, I mean, like the last fellow wanted 4 days as the minimum. He has to rent 4 days. He can't rent 2 days. right?
Oh, I've been saying 2 days minimum would be my 2 days minimum, yes. Mhm.
So it'd be a 2-day minimum, 180 days. Non-consecutive or consecutive, that's
so
what.
get rid of that last sentence like you did in the last one.
The last
Yeah.
sentence.
180 days total, 2 days.
And I think 180 days anytime throughout the year. So a total of 180 days.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Make a motion, we
And
approve.
again, we asked the last gentleman that we approved to just keep a calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, this is something we're new to, so my plan is we're gonna sign up on the VRBO stuff, and so I think they'll keep some track, and then obviously through bookkeeping. The one thing I don't know that it matters for this, but, and Rochelle and Rob and I were gonna talk after this, but my understanding was we also own the lot behind the house, the 0.61, and then there's a lot behind it.
It's up on the hill.
You'd have to check the county.
Yeah, I'm gonna
records in
have
order
to
It's up on the hill.
Make sure that went with it.
Same with
Because
the
up until you
easement,
bought
yeah.
it, it was part of it.
I'll pull up the GIS map, we can find out.
Yeah, that's right. You can see it.
See it on your
online.
map, yeah.
There is actually a
You go up and just hit that little square box thing there in the toolbar. Yep, that one right there. And then you just click on that parcel for me. And yes, you want it.
Okay. So it's
Just like that, you gotta
I was
live
like,
this life.
it's more than 0.61 acres, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was only doing a staff report on the lot with the house.
Okay,
so,
all right, okay.
Yep.
I'll say I'm mowing up there, so I hope I own it.
Thank you for that. The books have been lowered.
Yes. Well, so has my poison ivy's been increased.
Should I make a
All
motion?
right. Yes,
I
go
make a
ahead. You can
motion
make
that
the
we
motion.
approve.
Oh, just a second,
with-
one more question.
Can you back up? I think it's B. I've just got to ask a question about our list.
Got 2 boats.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
That was a mistake. he
It's a
said.
mistake on my side. So I want to get rid of B completely. I want to modify A to be a max of 6 people because that's what their sewer system is sized for. And then we're gonna do the 2-day minimum and the 180 days, getting rid of the last sentence in P.
Yeah.
or
But Jason,
whatever condition
I
it is.
do, just for the sake of this meeting, our understanding was, and Robert can maybe attest to this, but with the property, there was supposed to be a shared interest in the lake shore.
You have,
Yeah, there's the
A quarter.
properties down there, there's 4 areas for both slips. There's a lot of trees in that area.
I took and I researched that this morning and I'm not a title company in that, but
So that would be something I'd have to either work out with the county or the title company.
I
That's right.
I didn't see anything in any of the deeds in that where there was any lake access transfers in that because pull up the
When it-
GIS
Across
again.
across the road. It shows it red, but it doesn't come up, I don't think.
Well, when it was foreclosed on, somehow the bank missed that piece, and so there's a whole,
Yeah.
And so, well,
everybody.
so I didn't know if that was something we could take care of on a county level or.
I don't know if it wasn't missed or not, but I mean, the survey document is very clearly that it stops here at the right of way of County Road K. This is out lot 1, and then lot 1, 2, and 3 were part of that survey. And I looked on the deeds, I didn't see anything in that for any easement or access rights on the other side. I believe that's county highway right of way, and that going all the way down to the lake there. You can kind of see the old platted road coming right down along. So,
So that would be a title company taking it down.
Yeah.
The house next door has 20.
Yeah, so I think that's, for whatever, the bank screwed up, so I just didn't know if that was something we could fix, because I think, fix on the county level, but I mean, our,
they'd have to go back and that to the previous owners
Our,
and that to be able to
yeah,
correct
I
that
don't know
deed.
if we'll find them, but our
It'll be a-
understanding is that there's lake.
It'd have to be a correction instrument, so, yep.
But that won't affect us.
No,
No.
it doesn't affect
I
us.
guess my question won't affect us either,
Okay.
but it's my understanding through Little Ward that the public right of way is public access. DNR told me this.
Yep. So, but here's the problem where it gets really confusing, Doug, and that is, so the right of way may extend to the water, okay? But then somebody puts their dock out, okay, and they spent $30,000 on a dock. And now me as the public, I can go and I can walk out on their dock and go fishing. And now I can pull my boat up to their dock, and that from the waters, and so people don't like that. And so then they try to take and say private dock, and that, in fact, I think there's even some signs along this portion that say private dock, they're on county road right away, and that, so they're not. So if they're out there and if the county highway department would be fine with them as far as being an obstruction in their right of way, as long as they're open to the public, they're probably fine. So anyway, but you can't make them private because then you're claiming ownership of something that's public.
I got that. I wasn't aware.
So
So we're ready for motion. I make a motion that we approve with the changes that Jason referenced.
A to 6, B is out,
Yes.
2 days, and then the last sentence.
It's gone. Yeah.
Those 4 things.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Tracy. Any other questions? Hearing none, then all say aye. Opposed? Okay.
thank you.
Mark this on your calendar. I made a motion 2 times to approve their meetings.
Is there anything more I need to do today or I'm done for now?
Just submit a land use permit for the
Start writing
$500.
checks.
Thank you, Kim. I know that.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
Whatever you're doing, it's a good thing because this was one of the easier ones to make a decision on because of the
Well, I
feedback, your
appreciate
feedback, your feedback,
Yeah.
Jason's stuff.
Well, on a side note, and that this is relevant, I guess, and that because properties like this is why the county wanted to do the CUP process in the beginning anyways, because, and that a property like that maybe could be rented more than the 180 days because they're not on the lakes. They don't have that riparian access. You have neighbors and support, and maybe they are good stewards. So I mean, that could have been one that you could have did more if you wanted, and that, but it seems like she's happy with 180, so.
I'll take
Um,
more.
One of the things.
You know what I mean in that, but it just gives you guys the opportunity to look at every property and then, and then we might get one 2 weeks from now that be right across the lake, but maybe it's 40 acres. Maybe the house is back in the middle of the 40 acres. Maybe that would be a 360-day deal, so.
And one of the things to also think about, and you guys probably thought it, changing environment out there, about what people are doing, the next generation. And the next generation being, I mean, your kids, and you're looking at kids that have grown up on the lake where we are. We've only been there, we built 20 years ago, but we've only been there full-time 15. We're seeing it change. We need to change with that to keep people wanting to come, to keep spending in the area to bring tax dollars. No, seriously, if you don't, you're not gonna have a nice place to live. I mean, I look at the reality, yeah, we moved out of the cities because it got too crowded, too much traffic. There's a lot of traffic now here. Okay, not gonna get away from that, but I would rather see, nothing against you whatsoever. I'd rather see somebody there, I'm gonna say part-time, but having a house standing empty. The house has been standing empty for 7 years. What good has that been doing? Wrecking the structure. So I mean, it's, yeah.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Double track.
Oh. There you go. Read the right one, the blue writing, not the red. 10. Number 9.
Fine, yeah, I have a couple things, Chairman O'Connell. I'll be quick. In your packet was a promotional piece for the zoning and land use workshop at Browntown, scheduled for July 13th. There is a meal included. Staff is attending, BOA will be attending, and it's open to all elected officials throughout both St. Croix County and Polk County. So plan commissioners have been invited from the city and villages as well as town boards. So I do need attendance numbers because for those of you who are interested and have the time, this really is for you. Simply let us know. Let me or Nicole know so we can register you. Elected officials are free, so we need to have that head count. So let me know.
I'll come.
You will?
Yeah, it's been 10 years since they had one of these.
It has been a while, yeah. Anyone else? Think about it.
What's the food?
It's,
You're not an elected official, you don't get to come.
I could totally go.
you can go.
But you have to pay.
Welcome to come, Malia. Absolutely.
Yeah, I do recommend it. It'll be a good refresher. Clarify some.
Zoning staff, clerks and administrators.
She can sneak in.
This is for
It's a
you.
good one. It's a gal from,
It's a good one from Clues, Center of Land Use Education,
Yeah.
Becky Roberts. She's come in the past. We used to do it with extension
Yeah, we used to, there
quarterly.
hasn't been one,
Yep.
what, up here since.
This
Once
is
you get her
on
book,
my
08.
town board agenda tomorrow night, so.
Okay.
It's a pretty good. Okay.
Also in your packet was the update of the undeveloped lake study. Those are the 7 undeveloped lakes that are not built out. Again, this is a baseline study. We're gonna look at collecting data on total phosphorus, chlorophyll, sucky depth, so that's indicator obviously of water quality. We'll also be collecting information on dissolved oxygen, temperature, pH, etc.
That could be interesting to see what it ends up being.
Yeah, we'll be doing 3 samples per year for 2 years. And we're also doing a 1 midsummer plant survey and 1 AIS or aquatic invasive species survey. So thank you for your support on that. Yeah, looking forward to the data as well. Again, it's a great baseline study. And so I just brought that to your attention because we've started that work.
Did they get an intern? Man, what?
Yes, we have 2.
Two?
I started on Monday.
Started to.
County planner position, we interviewed 3 folks. I just got an email. We had made 1 offer. She declined, so I'll have to rethink this again. The carve out for the renewable energy ordinance. Tell you what, I'll put the memo we got from Steve in a subsequent packet. But I did put it on the work plan, Chairman O'Connell, for November.
For ordinance time.
Yeah, and next week, and this is kind of a conversation, I guess I was gonna talk about the next agenda, but yeah, I'll just leave that for agenda number 10. Let's see, what else did I got? Oh, the order that Malia drafted for Blue Rock Quarry was in your packet as well. You saw all that, right? Your packet.
That's in the packet.
Right in front of them.
Oh, just this page.
Also, just to be something I'd like to share with you, Jason and I, at the last BOA, we just pitched this at them. And again, it's completely up to you. But perhaps looking at an ordinance amendment season, changing the ordinance back to where it was, and possibly having all conditional use permits going to the BOA. So you would not have to address those anymore. So we just pitched that idea. And it's something we can talk about down the road. Lastly, there's 40 acres for sale. Brent Cisco, our forester, was contacted by the Ice Age Trail Alliance. They actually own a 40 in Lorraine, adjacent to county forest land. They're curious if we want to purchase. I'm going to have Brent come in July to talk about it. We can use stewardship funds or the variable acreage loan. That's a 0 interest loan through the DNR. It's serviced by timber sales. We've taken them in the past. So it's an opportunity to add 40 acres to public domain and perpetuity towards our county forest. So just want to share that with you as well. That's all I got.
How busy are you?
We are very busy.
Okay, there.
With
that's
rural
what I wanna hear.
addressing now.
The amount of calls, like I said.
The
each one of
calls,
you are-
it's peak building season. We're trying to onboard winter. And we lack a planner. We have county priorities to do. The Scandy feasibility study is time consuming. zoning staff is inundated just with work and we're all trying, it's all hands on deck and
Well, with Jason's example, how many emails and
I can't speak for Jason. He gives me updates. God bless him. I mean,
Yeah.
oh my, yeah. You want to speak on that, Jason? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I've been running 2 weeks behind on emails, like literally and that, and phone calls I can't even keep up on. So anyway, our priorities right now have been directed in that because I have to take and direct my time. And so it's permits and that because those are the projects that people need to get going on. They need to get those sewers in the ground, whatever. So we do permits or any kind of committee work, that kind of stuff is next. And then after that, it's our communications and stuff that we might have. So way down at the end is the rural addressing projects that we've got going. But we did send out the 317 that we changed in the town of Lincoln, you know, and that's, there's a lot of phone calls on that. You know, overall, I think that people are pretty hot when they first call. But we've got kind of a standard written email and that we send back if they give us an email. Otherwise, I got kind of an elevator speech if you want, and that kind of explaining NG 911, explaining your guys's support for the new 911 system, and that through the upgrade of the PSAP equipment over there in the sheriff's office and through the upgrade of the cell towers that has been going on the last 2 years. So that's kind of our approach. Town and everything has all been on board with this the whole time, you know, and that. So that project is snowballing though. And so we've got a lot of towns that want to be involved. We've currently done an inventory in the town of Johnstown, and they've partnered with us to do their town as well. We just finished up McKinley and that they were doing some orders and that we only had to change 11 addresses in that town. So, I mean, it's a big difference in that 11 versus 317, but it's because McKinley doesn't have a lot of lakes and they're not as developed as heavily as other areas in the county. We've also got the town of St. Croix Falls and that is partnered with the county. The town of Milltown is wanting to do it. Eureka, Sterling, Lake Town, and that's it. So anyway, so in that, and last year we did Black Brook, we did Beaver, we did West Sweden last year, Clam Falls and Marine and Bowling Lake for the year before that. So yeah, I mean, Polk County is gonna have almost all new signs here and that, except for a couple counties down in the southwest quadrant, so. And they're all basically jumping on board because their EMS staff is being, you know, strained. Whether it's, you know, firefighters or the cops or the EMS themselves. And they've also got COVID money right now, and it's something that they can apply to help everybody in their town. So it's got huge support right now by the towns.
So Jason, what constitutes a change?
What constitutes a change in that? Basically, there's been a lot of stuff, it sounds like, out on Nextdoor. I'm not on the Nextdoor app and that, but they thought that we were changing every road. And basically, we're going through and trying to fix non-compliant addresses that are odd when they should be even or vice versa. We're taking and clearly labeling private roads, I'll call them, and that. So if there's a shared driveway and there's more than 2 dwellings being served off from it, 3, 4, 5, we're naming that as a private road then, and then putting an address off from that private road so that everybody's fire numbers then is back where their private driveway meets the shared driveway, if you will, if that makes sense. So it's laid out like any other normal town road would be. Whereas a lot of those are A's and B characters because it's kind of snowballed over the years. And then there is some lakes that end up changing in that if we've got A's and B's along the lakes, you know, and that's part of our written response. You know, if you take our addressing system, it'd be ideal to have a 5-digit system, because if we had 5 digits, we'd have 400 addresses per mile, 200 on each side of the road. We've got 4 digits, which gives us 100 addresses per mile, and that 50 on each side of the road. And so that gives you basically 1 address for every 105 feet. So if we had 100-foot lake lots and the lakes were square, it'd be perfect. but we don't. So
Yeah.
anyway, so I'll get into more detail on that because I am planning on doing a presentation at your June County Board meeting just to make sure all the supervisors are up to date. But we're following the county's policy, only changing the minimum number of addresses possible. And that to get everything into compliance. Because these towns, they don't want to be buying new fire number signs that are going to be changing or have to change down the road. So that's where the cooperation is going back and forth. So.
And we'll be at Public Safety, Public Works tomorrow as well. And like Jason said, hopefully dispatch and emergency management will be along with Jason at the county board on the 20th, just to give all the county board supervisors some education on that ordinance and what's going on, what we've been doing.
It helps when EMS or the fire chief comes in, and like our town board chairman is the fire chief in St. Croix Falls. So he knows, in fact, he was so upset. One time they had a emergency call out on Deer Lake and they couldn't find it. And he to this day, he still thinks that man could have been saved if they could have got there, but they couldn't find the address because it was so nighttime and the ambulance couldn't, you can't tell when you go in on some of those roads. Like, cause we've got the ABC thing going.
So it's not that we're changing every named road, but there's no physical location to an alpha character, in that. So as long as they're in a sequential order in that, you have a lot better chance of being able to find them.
Yeah.
And he's not here today, and that's why I can say this, but I mean, Clam Falls was the first one and that jumped on board and said, we want every one of these addresses changed in our town. And that's not compliant because they had an incident up there where the guy had his wife, she had a stroke on the floor, didn't want to take and leave her, but you watch the ambulance drive by on the town road 3 times, so. Yeah, I don't know. So I did present at the Fire Chief Association meeting for Polk County, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. And that's, so they're all aware of it. We got to take and do a little bit better job on getting these changes out, and that to make sure we get it in the right contacts and that we haven't had issues in the years previously, but the changes have been in the 150 to 200 addresses, not the 300 scale. So we've learned a little bit on this one. So
That was really well received. Jason's presentation to the EMS and fire chiefs a couple weeks ago.
All right. 10.
I make a motion, will you adjourn?
No.
No.
I tried.
I won't accept your, you want every motion. This is your last meeting. She wants every motion.
No, I get one more. One more.
Denied.
Oh, okay.
I tried.
So yeah, draft agenda for June 21st. Our partners with EDW Extension, their new area extension director, Carrie Weiss, will be here along with Ryan Sterry. And I think they're going to introduce their new crops educator as well. I'll have an update on the comprehensive trail network plan. Suppose it depends, on the outcome of the county board. What the Gandy project will look like, but I'll have other updates for some of the other projects. The treasurer, Amanda, will be here to update us on tax delinquent properties. And I know, Kim, you saw this, the Supreme Court ruling, perhaps some of you as well, saw that they upheld the, in a way, that Act 216 ruling. Yep.
It was Minnesota law. It's some nuances, but it definitely impacts.
How we look at it too.
So we have some suggestions regarding that going forward. In terms of zoning, we have 2 items, maybe 3, hunky-dory, get back to us. So we have a rezone in the town of Johnstown and a tourist rooming house conditional use application as well. And then 2024 budget and annual reports. So I guess that's when I'll share our performance measures. It'll be in the budget book. I don't think I can lobby for additional funding requests, but
We start now.
I can tell you what there will be, but I don't,
Say
Vince
no
is
for
here
6
and I
months.
don't. We'll wait on that.
No, you gotta work it right to the end.
Well, they're zoning related, so. And so, yeah, that's, and then we'll have the, placeholder for closed session. In the event something happens with either the Wisconsin Realtors Association claim or the Stour litigation. So with that, is there a need to go in closed session?
Got nothing.
Really?
I know, right?
I'm
Nothing.
sorry, I can't believe that. My gosh. I guess it's gonna snow again. before that. 'Cause it's called snowmobiles, so I guess it's gonna have some snow on the ground.
There's always the October horse season.
Oh, sure. Gosh, yes. Well, number 12. Would you? And Jeff, you know what number 12 was?
No, I didn't turn the page.
That's what you skipped to.
Wish we adjourned.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Doug and I want to stay here.
Yeah.